Okay, so this is going to be an initial setup video for people who buy the old British MD3 radiation detector counters, which I really like on eBay, because there isn't really a tutorial video on them. It's pretty straightforward, but there's some stuff I think people don't realise which then can frustrate them with these. So these aren't Geiger counters, they're ionisation chambers. But anyway, let's get them out. So what you'll probably get when you order one is one of these that's recently been surplused, maybe some calibration stickers on them, although in this video I'll go on about recalibrating, because when the last calibration was probably done 10 plus years ago, probably closer to 20 years ago, there's not going to be much use for that. You may get a little screwdriver in the bag there that's pretty useless. I'd say use a proper screwdriver. And you'll probably get a little instruction card. Sometimes you get the calibration documents, sometimes you don't. So this is the MD3 meter to look at it. Pretty straightforward. I've done other videos on this, so I'll just go over the basics. That's the top scale. You've got two lots of switches. That one, which turns it on from off. First it does a battery test, then you have on with light and on without the light. So that's pretty straightforward. Then you've got this one, this is the range switch. So you have 0 to 3, 0 to 30, 0 to 300, and set 0. So what we're going to do first is, before I even put a battery in it and check it works, actually tell you what, I'll put the battery in just to check it works, just because this next bit's going to be a bit pointless if it doesn't work the battery. So let's zoom that in. So you've got these two things. That is lamp. Now this is the old bit from the old when they were Mark II Radiacs, but it's still relevant. Right, so the bit at the top one is lamp. This is the one that powers the bulb. You don't need a battery in this one if you don't want to use the bulb in it. So if you just wanted to use the device in a well-lit room, don't even bother putting a D-cell in that one. So the one you want to do is the one that says filament, and this takes a 1.5 volt D-cell battery. 1.2 volt D-cell rechargeables work fine as well. Now interestingly, this one looks like it has a different container in it than some of the others I've seen. Not that that matters, but I just thought it was an interesting thing. Anyway, so get this, I'm going to use a 1.2 volt rechargeable D-cell, pop that in like that, so the back of the battery faces upwards. Then you obviously re-screw that in. So what we're going to do now is put the battery test on, see how that works. And it's above the top red line on the battery test, which is good. According to the sheet how these work, if it's below the bottom red line, that means there's not enough energy in the battery to give accurate reporting. If it's between the bottom red line and the top red line, it means you've got about 20 hours or left in the battery. If it's above the top red line like this one is, that's good. So the battery test works. Now what we'll do, we'll turn it on and see what sort of reading we get. Now actually that's pretty good. The problem is with a lot of these, if you turn these on and they've not been used in ages, there's too much moisture in them. So you can get really weird reports coming in on this. But I'm going to show you anyway what you would do even if the needle had gone crazy on it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to set to 0, and we're going to set the 0. Now, the 0 and the calibration controls are under there. So actually what I'll do is I'll show you how to change the silica gel in it first, and then we'll go on to doing that there. Right, now, only thing to say here is there is a very minor risk of an electric shock. It's a high voltage shock, but it's not a high sort of current amps type shock. So it'll make you probably swear, you know, launch your arm back, but that'll be it. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the actual box, and then we're going to open up a panel on the front. So what we'll do is put all the screws somewhere you won't lose them. I'm just going to put them there. Actually, just to show you something, this is the bit where your silica gel is that's long since expired. So we're going to show you how you get in there. So I found the easiest way. Get some pliers like this, needle nose pliers, and stretch them so the two bits of needles act like a screwdriver. Then forcefully twist this, and be aware obviously you don't want to lose your grip on it. But because these are normally in really tight, you don't want to break a nail or something trying to get these open. So stretch these fully. There we go, that's twisting. And then just keep using the pliers till you can get it moving by hand easily enough. So there we go. So what's going to happen, this is going to be the silica gel cartridge that these would have originally come with. That's actually still not wanting to move all that easily. Yeah, that's still quite solid, so this is why you need sort of pliers for this. So this contains the original silica gel cartridge. Now the issue is, with ionisation chambers, moisture in there gives artificially high readings because moisture is conductive. So the idea was with old ionisation chambers that you would use a bit of silica gel or something similar to keep the inside as dry as possible. Now the issue is obviously when you're buying a second-hand meter that's not been used in like 20 odd years, these are going to be wow expired. So what we're going to do is get this off. There's not going to be any quick cuts in this video. I'm just going to basically keep the video to the length of where I film it. I might have to just edit it into 2 chunks if it doesn't want to go on my PC from the video file being too long. So what I'm going to do, once I get this bit open, I'll just stop and start the video so it doesn't make the video file so big it won't want to transfer via USB. Anyway, there we go, that's unspinning now. So what you do, you unspin this till it's fully loose. That's again a bit tight, so let's try and just shove that there. But as you can see, these don't always want to come out easily, just mostly due to being gunked up with age. But if you want your MD3 to work properly, you are going to have to take this out. So what we're going to do basically is just keep twisting that till we can get it to come out. Okay, I think it's fine to get out. I reckon this one's a bit cross-threaded as well, in all honesty. Because normally once you've got onto this bit of the twisting procedure, they come out. But basically what's in here is a silica gel kind of cartridge on a long sort of shape. So there we go. Right, it's out. So this is the long since dried up bit of silica gel. So what we're going to do using this is twist this bit here, and what you'll see happen is the old silica gel, which is, yep, pretty much rock solid in there. Looks like that. So what we've got now is this bit ready like that. So put this to the side, we're going to need it later. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to have to put some fresh silica gel sort of in that area of the iron chamber, but it's easier to do that from the inside, not the outside, so I'll show you that in a second. So what I'm just going to do now is I'm just going to stop the video so it doesn't go into 2 really long, so it's 2 segments, not 1 really long segment. And we're going to open it up. I will, just for the sake of not boring you, I'll undo these screws off the video, and then when I start up it will always be with all these screws ready to go. Right, all 6 screws are removed from there. Now I find the easiest way to open these is actually to flip them now this way round, and then just lift this up. So this one was actually calibrated in 2003, so the calibration on this one's only 17 years old. Right, so let's lift this up. So there's your unit, I've shown these before in videos. There's your basic circuit board, there's the resistors for the ionisation chamber. So what we want to do now is looking at this bit of the cover. We don't really need to do anything with this bit, but what we want to do, the bulb bit's in there and the bulb's fine. That's accessible from the outside, but doesn't look like we're going to need to do anything with it. I can't see the filament from here. So this is the bit where the silica gel goes. So what we're going to do is get from our packet silica gel. Now, I won't bother showing this in the video, I've done it before, but if you want to access the beta window, which is at the bottom, you simply undo the 6 screws there, then you can access it. You can see the film bit of the beta window is there. So, right, what we're going to do now is just get a packet of silica gel, and we are going to shove it into this hole here so it sort of sticks through like so. And I'll just pull the other end of it. So there we go, that's what we want to do with the silica gel. So basically what this is going to do is replace the old little sort of silica pen thing that sat there. So what we're going to do now is get the cap from the silica gel. I won't bother with the little O-ring that was on there, and we're just going to retighten this on. Now it might not always start going on all that easily because of the sort of, like I said, this one's a bit warped, I think, the old screw thread on it. But what we can do is hopefully get it to start turning at some point. Right, there we go, I think that's, nope. So let's, tell you what, let me just pull that silica gel out for now. I'll start that twisting in, and then, there we go. Right, now that's started to twist in, what I'll do is, because this will be easier, get that, put that back into that gap. There we go. And that's in there like that. And now what we can do is just finish off tightening that bit there. Now hopefully that's going to stay where it is. If you do this well enough, they're not going to really fall out. If you really wanted to, you could get a smaller silica gel packet and probably just glue that into there. It's up to you how you want to do it, but the point is this silica gel is sort of here, not in the way, and it's ready to sort of work. So that's that. If you wanted to clean out the insides or the outsides, I just recommend rubbing alcohol, sort of 70% rubbing alcohol, spray it on, wipe it down with a cloth, let it evaporate. But you mostly want to keep that dry in there, just because obviously, as I said, you don't want moisture on it. So let's re-get this. So when you put these in, it's quite straightforward. You need to do it so the screen is facing the little window at the top. So it goes in like this. So now let's drop that down. And if we've done it all properly, the silica gel shouldn't get in the way of the seal. There we go. It's crunching a little bit, but I think it's all sandwiched in there nicely. So now all we're going to do is obviously just re-put this back together. Now you'll find with some of these, some of the screws are rusted, whatever. Annoyingly, because these are old imperial measurement boxes, not metric, it's actually quite difficult to get the screws that were the right size for them, like new ones. But you know, it's possible. But I'm rambling a little bit here. But the point is that, you know, because these are old Mark II Radiac cases that the MD3 was retrofitted into, they are pretty old, like 1950s British imperial fitting, you know, things. So what we're going to do, look, is just now hold that bit down there so this bit reseals. There's an O-ring inside this bit here. If the O-ring's gone and you did want to replace it, what you could just do is get a modern O-ring pack and try and fit one the best you can, or maybe just buy some like silicone adhesive, glue that into the gap or something. There's quite a few different ways you could do it, but as I said, sometimes these are a little bit of a pain to get back in, because although they're lining up with a hole, now the silica gel's in there, and due to the age of it, they're not quite wanting to line up. But once you've got a couple of screws in, it should be a pretty easy process of just simply, you know, finishing this off and getting all the rest of the screws into place. So let's all pop them on their sockets now, and hopefully they should screw in a bit easier, because we've got the two diagonal, or sort of the two bottom screws done. So now if I do this one, I don't think I've ever had any of these that have had completely stuck screws that have never want to go out or go back in, because I have had some old Geigers, you know, where you just have completely stuck and rusted screws. So there's that. There's that one. We'll do the bottom and top too. So what we're going to do in a second is we'll turn it on and we'll test the lamp works quickly. As I said, the lamp just runs off its own decel, and I don't really think you'd ever need to use a lamp in here, but I might as well just show you how it works for this video, because this is an initial setup guide, and then we will carry on with the most important part, the calibration. Right, so here's the top one, the lamp, so let's pop the decel in here as well now while we're at it. Right. So now let's turn this over, turn it on. If we go to setting 2, that's on with lamp. Now the needle will probably reset in a bit. Sometimes when you put the silica gel in here, they need a little shake to get the components sort of back where they should be. So let's just check the ranges. And that looks like it is going to work fine once it's had a chance to warm up. Yeah, that's it, the needle's moving alright now. So let's go back to set 0. And then, right, to set the 0, there is a screw there you can access without breaking the calibration stickers for the 0. So basically what you do, put a screwdriver in it, turn it till you get the thing close enough to 0 as possible. So if you watch that needle there, if it's visible without the light reflecting on the screen, what you should be able to see is that, there we go, that makes it go lower, that makes it go higher that way. So the 0 is pretty much there. You'll find, depending on the voltage of the battery and the individual unit, some of them are easier to 0 than others. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to test it properly. We're going to have it on with lamp, and we're going to go to the lowest range. Now, if you're really lucky, you'll have a meter that pretty much sits on the 0. You can see a little bit of needle movement, and it's all fine, which seems to be this one. But some units, as I said, aren't as good as others. But I will show you the calibration controls in this particular video. Now, the lamp, is that working in this one? Let's have a look. Unless you're in a dark room, sometimes it can be hard to see if the lamp's working. Right, I don't reckon the lamp's working on this one, so let me show you how you access the lamp. So, that's the lamp bit there. So what you do, put a screwdriver in there, unscrew this, and pull this bit out, and you can access the bulb. So either this bulb is blown, and it doesn't look like it's blown from looking at this one, so I'm just going to try and put it back in. Sometimes, you know, it's one of the weird things of taking it out, screwing it back in, the lamp works. So let's just do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the top of the unit while doing this screw up, because I might suddenly see the lamp lights up or goes off, so I won't bother changing the bulb in this video just because, you know, if you really want to do that, it's very straightforward. It's changing a light bulb. Alright, and now let's turn that. There we go. The lamp is just about kicking into life. It's pretty dull, but alright, that's a bit brighter there. It was just a weird connector. But if I hold that up there, you might be able to see, if I can get the angle right, that the lamp is on inside. It's going to be quite hard to show on camera, but the lamp is on now. Anyway, let me show you the calibration controls. So what we'll do is we'll turn it on to regular mode, and we're going to break this seal. Because these seals are the calibration seals, but as I said, they're very long out of date with the calibration. Now under there, there'll be 2 screws. Hopefully, they are just flatheads. Sometimes they're not. If they're not flatheads, we'll have to get the correct screwdriver to open it. So let's assume these are flatheads and try and just get this to find where the bit is for them. Yeah, they're flatheads, good. So that's nice and straightforward. Sometimes you need those kind of star keys or like hex key type ones. I guess some of them thought if we put a weird screw on there, soldiers can't fuck about with it. So what we'll do now is get into that. There we go, and there's the other one. So the calibration control is pretty much like the 0, it's just one that applies a bit more or a bit less voltage to the circuit. And the idea is that, you know, if you have it more, you can have it more or less sensitive, so it's kind of a nice thing to play about with. So there you go, that's your calibration control, that one. So if I put this on and put this here, you can hopefully see, if I zoom in, and hopefully the lighting will be at an angle where it's not reflecting off. There we go. Right, let me now access the calibration control, and what you should see happening is the needle either going up or down. So that's gone up ever so slightly, turning the calibration fully on that way. If I turn the calibration fully down that way, then it's pretty much directly on the 0. Let's just go back to the set 0 and just see if we can get the 0 any more that way. Let's try and get it absolutely precisely on the 0. I think that's going to be pretty good. Right, so now let's go back to the lowest range, and there you go. So that's it all set up ready to use. Now if you wanted to test this, depending on what you can legally get in your country to test old ionisation chambers like this, is going to basically let you know if you can do it or not. In any country where it's legal to do it, a bit of americium-241, which is in smoke detectors, can be used to basically bombard the chamber with alpha particles. That was actually one of their old calibration methods for these. I won't show you how to do it in this video, but I will show you the port you need to open. Obviously, if you do contaminate the chamber, that's a bit of an issue. You have to take it all out and clean it, but I found these are a lot better than certain Geiger counters to actually avoid accidental contamination. But these are survey meters. They're basically designed to show you doomsday levels of radiation, so for the most part you won't see the needle move. If you took it to a hospital x-ray department, they let you x-ray it, you might see the needle move. But anyway, there is this port. So what you do, you unscrew this port, and this is the calibration port for, or like basically the test port. So what you do, you get that out, you open that, and that's the test port in there. So that opens the access up to the ionisation chamber. Now what's going to happen is, because that port is open, obviously alpha radiation can enter and therefore mess with the needle. And as I said, I've not got anything handy that's not locked in the safe that I could use this with. But basically what you would do, you just simply get a bit of AM241 or whatever equivalent. Sorry, it's that bottom hole, isn't it? You'd get AM241 or equivalent, generally something that is a strong alpha emitter. Polonium would work as well, I imagine. And what you do is you just simply put that on the top of there or in slightly. You could always blue tack it to this screw cover and then screw it in, and you'll notice the reading will go up and down depending on how close the screw is to be fully screwed in or not, because that's going to be how close the AM241 or whatever is to the ion chamber. So anyway, what will happen if you did that with the americium or whatever, you'd see the needle go up and down, probably only on the first range, but a potent bit of AM241 might go just above 1 centigrade. But in general, ion chambers are so simple that if you've got to this stage and, you know, the needle is sitting on 0 and maybe fluctuating ever such a little bit, you know, it works. Because ion chambers do not use Geiger-Müller tubes or anything, you know, that might break. All this does is basically has an ion chamber running on it. When ionizing radiation enters the ion chamber, it messes with the electrical current inside the ion chamber, therefore displaying a reading on the display. That's all there is to these. So that's basically the complete basic guide to setting up an old British MD3 meter. As said, you can pretty much get it down to stick new batteries in, replace the silica gel, you're good to go. As said, sometimes the lamps can be a bit fiddly, even if your bulb isn't blown. Sometimes you need to sort of unscrew and screw them in to let me put it back on with the lamp function. But yeah, even looking at this one, like this lamp is jolting on and off. Some of these are really strange where when the lamp is fully done up, it's actually not as bright as before. But essentially all the on the lamp function does is powers the little bit the lamp connects to there. Right, some good advice just when I finish the video. With any old detector chamber like this, if it's not in use, always unscrew it, take the batteries out. With rechargeables it's not as bad, but you'd never want like leaking batteries to ruin one of these. There you go, so just do that, batteries are out. I like how on this it says do not use 9 volt or 28 volt batteries, because that was for the old retro ion chambers, the Mark IIs. So there you go, that is basically the complete guide to setting up one of these, pretty straightforward. Calibration controls under there with the 0. So yeah, there you go, hopefully you found that useful. That is a beginner's guide really to setting up an MD3 and having it ready to use. But bear in mind, a calibration 0 setting will be a bit dependent on if you're using 1.2 or 1.5 volt batteries. But there you are.